could happen in the convention cities. So I have every expectation that there will be proper controls in both situations.
What are your recollections of that year, especially around the Democratic convention? I mean, what do you remember, watching this on TV? What were your responses? I know you were actively, working with President Nixon at the time on his campaign.
I was, and I arrived, I'd been abroad, I'd been in Israel for the summer. I came back that week in Chicago and witnessed on television what was happening. I talked with my friends in Chicago at the time. It was profoundly disturbing. But remember, the Vietnam War was a polarizing issue that was almost beyond the comprehension of those of us. And remember that the Democrats were grieving. They were grieving the loss of Bobby Kennedy. They were grieving the loss of
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. They were grieving the loss of so many different aspects. And the Yippies, do you remember the Yippies? They had no particular regard for any kind of order. I don't think we're in that position. At least I hope we're not. The Jerry Rubins are no longer the dominant people when it comes to these kinds of street demonstrations. It's a different era. But Beowulf, I could be wrong. But I can tell you one thing, they're going to gear up in Chicago like they've never geared up before for crowd control.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't doubt that. It will be interesting to see. I noted, checking out the news in your neck of the woods that there were massive protests, or at least enough to close down freeways. So I don't perhaps
let me remind you,
practices
in
are
1964,
being made.
when the Republican convention took place in San Francisco, there were demonstrations here in San Francisco as well.
Okay,
and people forget that because it wasn't as disruptive. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Chicago has already had the Democratic convention, hosted a previous Democratic convention in Chicago, and it went off pretty well. So I expect everything will be as it should be. But you know what? That's what makes politics so interesting.
It is.
Nobody knows.
It is indeed. And as the host of Around the Political World with John Rothmann, I'm sure you will delve into these issues. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your new podcast, co-hosted with your former producer from KGO, Lynn Sloan, about the podcast, The Voice of San Francisco. What are you going to be looking at? What sorts of issues are you going to be dealing with? I would love to hear more.
I've only done 3 for them so far, but The Voice of San Francisco is put together by Susan Dyer Reynolds, who was the editor of the Marina Times, and Herb Cain's daughter-in-law, Melissa, is involved. And a whole group of us, Lynn Sloan, my former producer at KGO, is helping with the production end. And the idea will be to focus on issues. So let me give you an example. The first one we did was on O.J. Simpson, because I knew O.J. here in San Francisco prior to his fame and fortune. And so I was able to reflect on my feelings about the death of O.J. Simpson. We also dealt, as I told you today, with the Bicycle Coalition and their power here in San Francisco. Should streets be closed? What does that mean? So we're dealing with a variety of issues. One other issue we dealt with, which is becoming a national issue, is ranked choice voting. And I'm very much opposed to ranked choice voting. I think it distorts the process. So all of these issues, and every day, Monday through Friday, I will do 7 to 10 minutes dealing with a local San Francisco issue or a concern that I have about the quality of life in the greater Bay Area. So we are going to touch on all of these issues. Education matters will be a particular interest to me. Recruiting new teachers will be important. Question of police forces being up to what they should be. There will be a whole host of issues which we're going to deal with. There was a headline in this morning's Chronicle about police chases, which are leading to record fatalities. And as I was remarking to Lynn, we worked with my colleague, the late colleague, the wonderful Gene Burns, and his whole thing was opposing these kinds of police chases. So every day I will reflect on those issues, and others will be chiming in with their point of view. And our hope is that the Voice of San Francisco will become the forum which San Francisco needs now that there's no talk radio in the city.
Indeed.
That's the goal.
And well, good luck with that. And as a former resident of and a frequent visitor to the San Francisco Bay Area, I will definitely be listening to that and keeping track of all the local issues, because truly there are fewer and fewer news sources in the San Francisco Bay Area that produce original content and certainly that process the issues in a thoughtful and deep way, as you always did on KGO. So I will truly be looking
original
forward
content. And let me remind you, we are in a mayor's race. We have a number of key candidates for mayor who are potentially going to shape the future of the city. So we're addressing their issues as well. We'll do interviews, the whole 9 yards. So I am looking forward to being able to have a positive impact on the future of this great city. And Beowulf, I appreciate very much your putting in a plug for Around the Political World with John Rothmann, but also for the Voice of San Francisco.
Please look for both podcasts on a podcasting platform near you. John, it is always a pleasure to have you with us on Facepalm America. Thank you so much for being here.
Always my pleasure, Beowulf. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to us today on Facepalm America. Facepalm America is produced by Two Squared Media Productions. You can go there and find out more about the company. And the folks who produce it are Ace Elson and Rosabelle Hine. Thank you so much to them. And until next time, enjoy the day.